Coming up on Vetline.
And if you're with the VA for your treatment, they're not going to give you an opinion against another VA doctor. So
it's not unheard of or unrealistic to go from a 10% rating, and when you've taken the full scope of the effect of that 10% injury, you could go up to 100%.
That's right. If the VA ever gets it figured out where my job is not needed, I'm okay with that. I would say just about every case we have has a secondary condition. They got their opinion, we got our opinion. Assuming our doctor, which we will make sure, has a good, background and makes good arguments for their opinion, our opinion should at least be as good as the VA's opinion. Generally, it's way better than the VA's opinion. So, then we're able to be there for that. And the other thing about using a law firm versus VSOs is the VSOs, unfortunately, not to make it about money, but they don't have the resources to be putting out for their people's opinions. So
pay for like a team of independent medical professionals to substantiate.
Right. And it's sad that you have to do that, and that's sort of a discussion for another day and whatever.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, and doctors don't work for free generally. And if you're with the VA for your treatment, they're not going to give you an opinion against another VA doctor. So if you're using the VA for your treatment and you go in and say, hey, this doctor said this, are you willing to say the opposite for me? They're not going to.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's an actual rule or an unwritten rule or just this sort of like everybody knows it but nobody wants to say it, that they're not allowed to do it. But
the bro code of the doctor.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
I've tried literally on thousands of cases to get the VA to give us an opinion, and it's just not even worth it anymore. So what we do is we've got our doctors, unfortunately it costs anywhere from $750 to $1,500 to get the doctor to sit down for an hour, review the file, give us their opinion. I shouldn't say.
And that's something that a firm like yours fronts. It's not like somebody has to pay out of pocket.
Right, that's what I'm getting at. The resources. Yep, we've got the resources and the partnerships set up with doctors that the VA has sort of accepted opinions from in the past. They're completely independent of us, so there's no conflict of interests or anything like that. But yeah, we're set up to do that. We could talk about how crappy it is that vets have to do that, but we could talk about it all day long till you're blue in the face, but you still got to do it, right?
You got to do it, yeah.
And if the VA ever, I say this all the time, if the VA ever gets it figured out where my job is not needed, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that'll be a victory for the veteran.
Yes, I am really, really okay with it. I will gladly find something else to do. But unfortunately, we're not there right now. Got to do it, because if we don't do it, nobody will. And that's just how it is.
So, and the difference between filing for and taking advantage fully of these secondary conditions and not could be substantial. Like if I, get hit by somebody throwing an elbow at PT one day and I break my nose and it ends up being a little off center forever, and the VA rates me 10% for that. That's not a lot. 10% rating is $100 some odd bucks a month forever. It's better than a poke in the eye with a burnt stick, as my wife would say. But let's say that dislocation, that uncentering, leads to sleep apnea, and you start having to sleep with a CPAP. That's a 50% rating right there. And then that lack of sleep ends up totally draining you and leading to issues with depression and weight gain and blah, blah. I mean, it's a snowball effect. So all of a sudden you could realistically, it's not unheard of or unrealistic to go from a 10% rating, and when you've taken the full scope of the effect of that 10% injury, you could go up to 100%.
That's right. I'll give you an example, and this is early in my career. There was a case I did not know what to do with. I didn't. I tried everything I could think of. I'm just going to send it off to a doctor, see what the doctor says. I don't really know where this is going to go. I'm going to pay for the doctor to just read the file, tell me what he thinks. It came back, and the guy was very seriously disabled. We're talking heart disease, diabetes, mental health, needed his wife to be a caregiver. Like he was far, down the path of being disabled as it can be.
Yeah.
And then the only thing he had service connected was a plantar's wart on his foot for 10% for pain, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyways, I sent it to the doctor, and the doctor looks at it and he's like, oh yeah, like all of this stuff, we can get it service connected. The theory for that one was all stemming from that plantar's wart, which sounds insane, but when you talk to this guy, like it can't help but like just feel for him and his story, because this plantar's wart wasn't just like it was like a golf ball,
the mother of all plantar's warts
in his foot that they cut out, and then there was this gaping hole, and it just was painful to walk. So this guy, he's got this wart. He actually was a very well paid person as a district manager for a large grocery chain down in the Chicago area. Was making six figures back in the 70s. Like, he was doing really well, right?
Crushing
like,
it.
Really good. He's doing that for several years, and his foot is just killing him to the point where he just literally cannot do it anymore. Like, cannot be on his feet. He had to walk the stores a lot on hard tile floor, and I don't think shoes were as good as they are now for air and support. There were no.
In the 70s, they just used burlap sacks with little ties around them.
That's right. Yeah.
Twine.
So he ended up leaving, used all the money he had saved to buy like a cab token in Chicago so he could run his own cab, basically.
Sure. Yeah.
Made a decent living, but being a cab driver, being on your butt all day, driving, stopping at gas stations to eat crap food, I mean, just over the years put on weight and became depressed, and the snowball effect to the point where he was literally so disabled he needed a full-time caregiver, which we were able to even get his wife, put on as that caregiver and paid by the VA. So, yeah, it all stemmed from him having this
plantar's wart.
Plantar's wart.
Did he get up to 100%?
He did. I mean, it was a fight, but we got him there. He was very happy.
Oh, I'd imagine.
And it's really sad when you talk to some of these vets, because it's like they just have this feeling of like, I'm so proud of my service and I served my country. I did what I had to. And then this happened to me and it wasn't my fault. And now my life is miserable. I just need help. And I can't believe they would say no.
Right.
Every once in a while, these people just like tell you their story, and you just, it sounds so crazy that you'd be like, oh, you had a plantar's wart, now I'm going to give you 100%. And without really talking to this guy, maybe it still does sound crazy. I don't know.
Sure.
Maybe there's people who say, okay, this system is really messed up if this can get 100% for a plantar's wart. But, you talk to these people and understand the profound, horrible, effects that this thing had on their life. And then to make it even worse, than not understanding how you said you were going to help them and now you won't.
Right.
It's just like, and this dude was old school too. So it was like, when you have like kind of these tough old curmudgeons who are crying in your.
I know the type.
Yeah. It's just like, it's one that I just had to do it. And I'm so happy that I sent it off to the medical person. Changed my entire, like I said, it was very early in my career. It was probably like one of my first 10 or 15 wins, I would say, when I was
15 plus years ago.
Yeah.
And the rest is history.
Because I'll tell you, I worked at the VA. I did.
So you've seen firsthand.
I've seen firsthand what goes on. Like, I was the one denying that case back, in 2007. All these vets would come in here and try to say that their service caused diabetes and heart disease.
When you were on the VA end?
When I was on the VA side, I didn't get it. I didn't really get it. I didn't get trained right about it. I didn't have higher-ups that were empathetical, sympathetical to those types of arguments. Mm-hmm. It seems like they felt like they were the guards of the purse, and
right.
And even though the law supports this, we have to tighten up or whatever. So I had sort of a mental block for a minute. Luckily, I got over it very early because of that win.
That must have been massive, too, from 10 to 100%, and it probably took years.
It was. It really was.
Taking a quick 20-second break in the action to talk to you about our incredible sponsors, Tabak Law. best in the business, the most reliable when it comes to VA disability claims and appeals. They've personally helped me. I am a client, and I highly recommend that if you need some support with your VA disability claims, that you check them out. Brand new website at tabakattorneys.com. Back to it.
The satisfaction that came from...
Yeah, I bet.
Because he'd beg me, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with this case.
Yeah. That was fate just pushing you.
And it was such a wild
outcome
that I never even made that connection, but I never made that mistake again. And now when a service-connected vet comes in with these systemic types of diseases that are very clearly related to a sedentary lifestyle, we do a thorough analysis. Is this caused by your service-connected issues one way or another? And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just the way that things shook out for them, right?
But if it is the 3 degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever it is, then really important that y'all get compensated for what you're owed from the VA. I did not look at the chat. Question in the chat from Zach. What is Tabak Law? That is the firm at which Jim is the CEO, managing partner. What does Tabak Law do differently from other veteran law firms that separates them?
That's a really great question. When I started, there wasn't a lot of veteran law firms, but now they're starting to pop up, and then you've got the claim consultants. What really sets us apart is that we will take any vet that asks for our help, and no matter what they come in asking for help with, assuming it's something that you can verbalize that it's a current disability and that it might be related to the service, we're going to work up the case the same as if it's someone who comes in with a case that we know is going to be a $100,000 case. Like we take every case seriously and do a thorough investigation of it before we tell the vet that there's nothing there.
So you don't turn the case. You don't say this isn't really going to make us a lot of money. Or
that's right.
Which a lot of firms do. Which is, their prerogative, but a lot of veterans get turned away.
We've set our system up that we have found a way to be able to just help everyone. You ask for help, we're going to take your case, we're going to get your file, we're going to look at the medical records, we're going to find everything that you have told us you want to claim and everything that you didn't even know you should be claiming, and we're going to get that stuff sent into the VA for you. We're not going to care if it's something that we get paid $10 on or even $0 on, because sometimes vets will come in and it's all new claims. The law doesn't allow for us to charge for new claims. There is an industry that does, but you're not supposed to. We take the case and we're going to help. You want help? We can help. We will help. That's the only analysis that we put into who we're going to work with. In fact, the vast majority of our cases that we bring in are cases that other lawyers have turned down, and they say, hey, we can't help you, but we know Tabak Law will help you, so go talk to them. It's probably one of my favorite things about what we do is that these people who were hopeless about their case because the VA screwed them, they probably had a VSO that didn't do a great job. They went and talked to an attorney that said no, and then they come to us and we say yes, and we overwhelmingly are helping them and winning their cases. We'll help literally anyone that comes to us. I don't care if I make $1 off of a case. I need to make money off of some cases or this whole system collapses, but it's not an analysis that I'm making when I'm deciding.
We got a question on LinkedIn too, so we'll answer that quick from Corrine. How many secondary conditions are you helping process with the passage of the PACT Act?
I would say just about every case we have has a secondary condition. I mean, the PACT Act made it so that, a couple of things. It added some presumptives.
And what is a presumptive?
A presumptive is like when the VA has enough evidence where they can just say, hey, this happened to you, you have this disease, I don't even need a medical opinion, I'm just going to give it to you.
So you were in Vietnam, you had confirmed Agent Orange exposure, and you receive, and then later you got X kind of cancer, they just assume
That's
that
right.
those two
So,
things are
like,
connected, and you don't have
usually
to
you would
fight.
have to prove exposure. So there's two presumptions in that case. There's you were in Vietnam. I'm going to presume Agent Orange hit you at some point. We presume that because you were in this area, you're now exposed to Agent Orange. And litigation over the years have expanded that, including the PACT Act. Now it used to be just in the country of Vietnam. Then it got expanded to like the blue water, which is I want to say it's like, don't quote me on this because I don't have but I think it's like 12 nautical miles off of.
Okay.
Because of wind and the planes flying with it and all that stuff, and then parts of Korea, and there's a few other places too.
Yeah, it expanded to
it expanded
Iraq,
the geography where they say, hey, we know enough stuff was sprayed there during this period of time. You don't have to tell me where you were on what day and prove that you were exposed. We're just going to say we're presuming you were exposed. So there's that presumption. Then there's the next presumption that says, now, if we have enough studies that Agent Orange is linked to these conditions, diabetes, coronary artery disease, high blood pressure,
cancer,
a lot of other things.
prostate cancer, something like that.
Prostate cancer, bladder cancer,
prostate, bladder cancer.
A lot of cancers.
Progressive
Agent Orange was
supranuclear
some bad
palsy.
Yeah, exactly. It was some bad stuff, right?
Bad stuff.
So there's two presumptions. One, yes, if you were here, you were exposed. Two, if you were exposed and you have this, it's related. You don't need to prove you were exposed. You don't need to prove that it's related. So a lot of times with those cases, they just say, where were you stationed at what time? Does it fall within our group of where we say we had this exposure? And then, do you have the disease? That's the only two questions. If you say yes, boom, you get it.
And you don't have to prove that connection.
That's right.
So those presumptives, the list of presumptive conditions and exposures was greatly expanded by the PACT Act. Is that correct?
It was. It also expanded, presumptions to some Gulf War things, because
right.
The Gulf War has really been really hard to prove stuff was related.
Sure.
Historically, until the PACT Act. In the past, you had to prove to get anything service connected. It was the goofiest analysis. You had to prove that this person had an unexplained illness, right? What does that mean? That means something's wrong with you, but we don't know what it is. So guess what? If you get a diagnosis, well, we know what it is.
Right.
So,
right.
You have arm pain. Sometimes the doctors don't feel comfortable not giving a diagnosis. We're going to say arthritis of your arm.
Right. And then it's not unexplained. So
now we know what it is. Yeah.
Got it.
So it made things really, really goofy. And then there's the fibromyalgias and the chronic fatigue syndrome and all that stuff. So it made it a little easier to do that. But the PACT Act was great for, especially for Gulf War and chemical exposure. It made it a lot easier.
There you have it, folks. If you have any follow-up questions or questions that I didn't see in the little chat thingy, please drop us a line. See you next time.